Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of how to score 100 out of 100 on your Unified State English exam. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the writing part of the exam. I will give a brief description of what this part is all about. Then we'll talk about the assessment scales for both tasks that you have to complete in order to succeed in this exam. And finally, I will share some of my personal tips, advice, strategies, approaches to deal with each exercise. Let's talk about writing. What is the writing part of the Unified State English exam? Basically, it is two written tasks that you have to complete. The first one is always an informal letter, and the second one is always an essay. Speaking of these two tasks, you have to write 100 to 140 words in your letter and 200 to 250 words in your essay. So make sure you do not exceed the word limit and stay somewhere in between. Like I would suggest 110 words and 220 words, because writing more is not necessary and you will spend some extra time which you do not have in the exam. You are given 80 minutes to complete both tasks, and I would recommend you to spend 20 minutes on your letter and 60 minutes on your essay. So let's talk about the assessment scales. What is tested in writing? The first criterion is communicative achievement. Communicative achievement, it is your ability to answer what you asked to. In your letter, this is going to be 3 or 4 questions that your pen friend asks you, and usually three questions that you ask him on a certain topic. That's it. And in your essay, it is going to be your personal opinion that you express regarding certain topic that you have chosen and reasons for it. Remember, there are 2 or 3 reasons that you have to include. And also an opposing opinion that you have to introduce, and 1 to 2 reasons. Don't forget about choosing one of them and saying why the other one is wrong. In addition to that, you have to make sure that you stick to a certain register. We have 3 of them: informal, semi-formal, and formal. When you're writing a letter, make sure you use informal language and contractions. So contractions are basically words like can't instead of cannot, don't instead of do not. Make sure that you use them instead of full forms. And when you're writing your essay, make sure that you do the opposite. Don't use any contractions and use only formal or semi-formal language. So avoid using phrasal verbs. I would not recommend doing that, and some idioms which are not appropriate in this context. Only formal language. So this is it for communicative achievement. The second criterion will be text organization. Basically, this is your ability to divide both tasks, written tasks, into paragraphs. There will be 7 paragraphs in your letter. We'll talk about it a bit later. And there will be 4 paragraphs in your essay. An introduction, body part, which consists of your personal opinion and reasons, and an opposing opinion and reasons. And the final part, which is always a conclusion. Text organization also tests your ability to use linking words and introductory phrases such as "I'm inclined to believe that," or "moreover, furthermore," and so on. The third criterion for your letter will be vocabulary, grammar, punctuation, and spelling. So they are combined. So basically, here you have to make sure you don't make grammar mistakes, spelling mistakes, punctuation mistakes, and use appropriate vocabulary. As simple as that. If you do that, you will get a high score. Remember, you can make 1 mistake of each type and you will not be penalized, so it's totally fine. Speaking of the second task, which is an essay, there are 5 criteria. The first one we have already mentioned is communicative achievement, the second one is text organization, and the third one will be grammar, fourth vocabulary, and fifth will be spelling and punctuation. So they are just divided, that's it. They're practically the same, but here you have 14 points rather than 6 compared to your letter. Now let's turn to tips, strategies, and approaches. Okay. My first tip will be to spend 20 minutes on your letter and 60 minutes on your essay. Don't make a rough draft. You will not have enough time to do that. You only need to include some key points so that you keep them in mind while writing the answer on your answer sheet. So what I'm talking about is that you need to write some ideas for questions that your friend asked you and for your own questions that you are going to ask him. That's it. So let's take a look at this template. The words which are highlighted, the green ones, are the words which you need to memorize before the exam. Make sure that you memorize everything, including commas, so that you do not make punctuation mistakes as well. The only information that you need to include here will be answers to your friend's questions and your own questions that you're going to ask him in return. That's it. Nothing else. Just memorize the green words and include some of your own information. This way, if you don't make any mistakes, grammar, vocabulary, punctuation, which you will not, because you'll only need to write 60 words, you will definitely get the high score, which is 6 out of 6. And speaking of the essay that you have to write as well, here it's a little bit trickier. The introduction is ready and it's versatile. I tested it, it fits all of the contexts. The only thing that you need to include in your introduction is some information which you will take from the rubric, which is the topic of your essay. But make sure that you paraphrase it and use your own vocabulary. If you struggle paraphrasing, you can just change some words like important into critical or vital and so on. That will be enough. You will not be penalized for that. And that's it. Your introduction is ready. You do not need to spend any time thinking of it during the exam. You just kind of recall it in your memory and write it down. That's it. The second part, which is body, will include 2 paragraphs. And the first one we have already mentioned will be your personal opinion on the issue that is raised. And here, yeah, you will definitely use linking phrases that you will find in my template, firstly, secondly. On top of that, you can use different ones, any you like, besides, moreover, furthermore. Doesn't really matter, but make sure that you use them. To introduce your own opinion, I would suggest using the phrase "I'm inclined to believe," as it is considered to be highly advanced, and you'll definitely get some scores for vocabulary criteria. Make sure to use this phrase. Okay, then introduce an opposing opinion. You can see that there are phrases that are made specifically for you, and they are quite advanced, so they contain some words like contend and some others, which will definitely give you an advantage over other participants. And finally, the conclusion that you have to write. Here, you will use my template as well, but make sure that it fits your context. Basically, your conclusion is your introduction and the topic that you have chosen. Just you have to paraphrase what you said in your introduction using different words. That's it. As simple as that. And don't forget to write something like, I disagree with this idea or with this view because, and say why. That's it. If you do all of this and follow my templates, if you avoid making grammar mistakes, punctuation mistakes, vocabulary mistakes, you can make one of each. Remember, it's not penalized, it's totally fine. You will get 14 out of 14 for this task, which will be 20 in total and which will be the highest score. So I personally got it and I followed this strategy back in 2016 when I took my exam, and yeah, it pretty much works. Just make sure you don't spend time writing a draft and follow these templates. That's it. So that's how you get the highest score for the writing paper. The next advice is to write as many letters and essays as possible so that you get the feeling of what a certain amount of words feels like. And why do you need to do that, you would ask me? Because you do not have time to spend in your exam counting words. You have to kind of feel how many words you have written at that particular point, that particular stage of your essay or letter, let's say, because you don't need to count them. Instead, you will spend this time checking if you made any mistakes. And remember that in your informal letter, you should use contractions and informal phrases like awesome, amazing, cool, hang out, and so on. Use phrasal verbs. But don't do that in your essay. Instead, use semi-formal and formal language. Phrases like, I hold the view that, or a lot of people claim that. So use these phrases. You'll find them in my template, so you don't specifically need to use them, just memorize it and make sure to use it in your exam. And the final tip is, of course, practice, practice, and practice. So basically just read some articles on the internet or essays, templates. You can look it up anywhere. You can look for IELTS essays since they're quite similar and read them, maybe point out some useful vocabulary and phrases, use them in your own answers. You will find the templates in the description below and my own answers that I wrote. You can check them out. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so that you don't miss out on my next videos, which will also be about Unified State English exam. I'll be sharing different tips on how to deal with reading, grammar, and listening, as well as speaking parts. And yeah, useful advice, so make sure you subscribe and follow me. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video. Peace out.